You're no longer needed here, Luke. Sign the NDA and we can part ways cleanly. Those were the exact words my wife Favour said to me in the lobby of the company I helped build for 12 years, 5 days after her father's funeral. She stood there in a black suit I'd never seen, looking at me like I was a complete stranger. What she didn't know was that her dead father had left behind a contingency plan that would flip everything upside down. What happened next will make you rethink everything you believe about loyalty, legacy, and the people who sleep beside you every night. Viewers, have you ever been blindsided by someone you trusted with your entire life? How did you fight back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Before this story begins, subscribe. You'll never look at relationships the same way again. My name is Luke Johnson. I'm 41 years old, and for the last 12 years, I've been the Chief Operating Officer at Hartman Industries, a mid-sized tech consulting firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because 5 days ago I lost everything I built, and it wasn't the company that destroyed me. It was my wife. Let me back up. 14 years ago, I met Favour Hartman at a business conference in Atlanta. She was sharp, ambitious, beautiful, the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into it. Her father, Gerald Hartman, owned Hartman Industries. When we got married 2 years later, I knew people would talk. They'd say I married into money, that I was using her to climb the ladder. But I loved her. And I worked my ass off to prove I deserved to be there. I grew up in a small town outside Raleigh. My father was a mechanic who drank too much and told me I'd never amount to anything. Those words haunted me through college, through 2 jobs I worked simultaneously, through every promotion I fought for. Marrying Favour wasn't about money. It was about finally being someone who mattered. Gerald saw my work ethic. He promoted me to COO within 5 years. Favour worked in marketing, but she never wanted the top spot. She always said business bored her, that she wanted the perks without the pressure. That was fine by me. I ran operations. Gerald ran strategy. It worked perfectly. Then 3 weeks ago, Gerald had a massive heart attack. He died 2 days later. At the funeral, Favour barely cried. I thought she was in shock. I held her hand through the service, whispered that we'd get through it together. I had no idea what was coming. 5 days after we buried him, I walked into my office and found a security guard waiting for me. I thought it was a mistake. The guard handed me an envelope. Inside was a termination letter. Effective immediately. Signed by Favour Hartman, Chief Executive Officer. I laughed. I actually laughed. There's been a mix-up, I told him. I'm the COO. My wife, she doesn't even work in this department. He didn't budge. Ma'am said to escort you out. You have 15 minutes to clear your desk. I called Favour. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. I packed my things in a daze, awards, photos, files I'd worked on for years. Colleagues stared from their cubicles. No one said a word. The silence was deafening, suffocating. When I got to the lobby, I saw her. Favour. Standing by the elevators in a black suit I'd never seen before. Hair pulled back. Cold. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Favour, what the hell is this? She stepped closer. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Luke, you've done good work here. But the company needs fresh leadership. My father built this place. It's mine now. And I don't need you anymore. I felt the floor drop out from under me. We're married. You can't just. I can. And I did. You'll receive severance. Sign the NDA, and we can part ways cleanly. Part ways? Favour, we've been together for 14 years. She smiled. It wasn't warm. It was the smile of someone who'd already won. And now we're done. My lawyer will be in touch. I stood there watching her walk away. The clicking of her heels echoed through the marble lobby. I remembered our wedding day, how she'd looked at me with such warmth. When had that warmth died? When had I become expendable? I didn't know it then, but Favour had been planning this for months. And she wasn't working alone. I went home. Our home. The house we bought together in Dilworth. Favour wasn't there. Her car was gone. Half her closet was empty. I sat on our bed, staring at the walls, trying to make sense of it. Then I remembered Favour's laptop. She always left it on the kitchen counter. I opened it. I know, invasion of privacy, but at that point I didn't care. Her email was still logged in. I scrolled. Meetings. Vendor contracts. Then I saw a name I didn't recognize. Nathan Cross. The subject line, Phase 2 complete. Let's celebrate. I clicked. The email was from 3 days ago. Favour, I'm proud of you. You handled Luke perfectly. The board is on our side. Now we can finally move forward without dead weight. Dinner tonight? Usual place. My hands were shaking. I searched Nathan Cross, LinkedIn. Chief Strategy Officer at a rival firm in Atlanta. Young, ambitious, handsome in that corporate shark kind of way. I kept digging. Found a photo from a business gala 2 months ago. Favour and Nathan. Standing close. Too close. Her hand on his chest. Him whispering in her ear. I felt sick. I remembered that gala. Favour had said it was boring, that she'd barely talked to anyone. I'd stayed home with the flu. She'd come back late, smelling of expensive wine and perfume I hadn't bought her. I'd asked if she had fun. She'd shrugged and said it was work. How long had this been going on? How many lies had I swallowed? I scrolled further back in her emails. References to our plan, after Luke is gone, building our future. 6 months of correspondence. 6 months of betrayal, carefully orchestrated while I slept beside her every night. I needed proof. Hard evidence. And I knew exactly where to find it. I called Martin Reeves. He'd been Gerald's right-hand man for 20 years, CFO loyalist, someone who knew every secret in that company. We met at a diner off South Boulevard at midnight. He looked exhausted, his eyes bloodshot. Luke, I wanted to warn you, but Favour threatened me. Said if I interfered, she'd fire me too. I slid the emails across the table. Nathan Cross. How long? Martin sighed heavily. At least 6 months. Maybe longer. Gerald didn't know. He was too sick near the end. But I saw the signs. Late meetings, trips to Atlanta, changes in her behavior. Nathan's been poison in her ear, Luke. He wants Hartman Industries. And she's giving it to him. Why would she do this? Because she finally has power. Her whole life, Gerald overlooked her. He praised you, promoted you, trusted you with his legacy. Favour felt invisible in her own family's company. Nathan made her feel seen. I felt my chest tighten. I'd never considered that. I'd assumed Favour was happy supporting from the sidelines. Martin leaned in. Gerald left something behind. A contingency. He didn't trust Favour to run the company alone. He knew she was impulsive. There's a clause in his will. If the board votes no confidence in the CEO within 90 days, control reverts to a trustee. Someone Gerald trusted. Who? Martin looked at me. You, Luke. He chose you 2 weeks before he died. He sensed something was wrong with Favour. He wanted insurance. My heart raced. What do I need to do? Get 4 board members to vote against her. We have 85 days left. But Favour's already making moves. She's fast, Luke. And she's ruthless. 3 days later, Favour called an emergency board meeting. I wasn't invited, but the meetings were technically public record for shareholders. I owned a small percentage from my years at the company. I had a right to be there. I sat in the back row of the observation gallery. Favour didn't even glance at me. She stood at the head of the long mahogany table, poised, commanding in a way I'd never seen before. Gentlemen, I'm proposing a strategic merger with Crosstech Solutions. This partnership will double our revenue and expand our market reach. Nathan Cross, their CSO, has graciously agreed to join our leadership team. Nathan smiled from his seat beside her. The board murmured. Some looked skeptical. Others intrigued. Richard Chin, one of the older board members and Gerald's closest friend, spoke up. Favour, this is sudden. Your father spent decades building this company independently. Why merge now? Favour's jaw tightened. My father is gone. I'm leading now. And I'm leading us into the future. Nathan added smoothly, Hartman Industries has potential, but it's stagnant. With our resources, we can innovate, scale, dominate the market. I stood up. Every head turned. This isn't a merger. It's a hostile takeover. Nathan's firm has been trying to buy us for years. Now he's using Favour to do it from the inside. Favour's eyes burned with rage. Sit down, Luke. You're no longer part of this company. But I'm a shareholder. And I'm telling this board the truth. Check the terms of that merger. Crosstech gets 60% control. Favour gets a payout. Everyone else here gets screwed. Silence fell. Richard flipped through the proposal. His face darkened. Is this true, Favour? Favour stood slowly, her composure cracking. This meeting is adjourned. Luke, you just made a very big mistake. The board members filed out, whispering. Nathan grabbed Favour's arm, but she shook him off. I left through the side exit, my heart pounding. I drove straight to the best divorce attorney in Charlotte. Her name was Claire Donovan. She'd handled high-profile cases, CEOs, athletes, politicians. She didn't take sides. She took wins. I showed her everything. The emails. The merger documents. Favour's affair with Nathan. The contingency clause in Gerald's will. Claire smiled. Look, this is better than I thought. We have leverage. A lot of it. What do I do? We file for divorce. We expose the affair. We challenge the firing as retaliation. And we use Gerald's contingency clause to trigger a board vote. If Favor's leadership is deemed compromised, you take over as trustee. What about the merger? If we move fast, we can freeze it. Conflict of interest. Favor's personal relationship with Nathan taints the deal. The board will have to vote it down. I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. Actual hope. But Claire leaned forward, her expression serious. Luke, Favour will fight dirty. She'll destroy your reputation, turn people against you, leak damaging information. Are you ready for that? I thought about the last 14 years. The lies. The coldness. The way she looked at me in that lobby like I was nothing. I thought about my father's voice. You'll never be good enough. I thought about proving him wrong. I'm ready. The next morning, Favour received the divorce papers at her new corner office. And she declared war. Favour didn't just fight back. She unleashed hell. Within 48 hours, there were news articles everywhere. Disgruntled ex-employee sues Hartman CO. Anonymous sources called me vindictive, unstable, a gold digger who married for money and power. My phone blew up. Friends stopped calling. Former colleagues unfriended me on social media. Someone leaked fake emails suggesting I'd been embezzling funds for years. I hadn't touched a single dollar. But the damage was done. Nathan gave an interview on the local news. Luke Johnson is a disgruntled employee who can't accept that his time has passed. Favour is a visionary leader. This is nothing but a personal vendetta from a bitter ex-husband. I was being erased. Everything I'd built, my reputation, my career, my credibility, was being systematically ripped apart. Then I got a call from Martin. His voice was shaking. Luke, 2 board members just flipped. They're backing Favour now. She's offering them significant bonuses if the merger goes through. Can we still trigger the vote? We need 4 board members. We have 3. 1 more and we can force it. But we're running out of time. I knew who the 4th had to be. Richard Chin. The old guard. Gerald's closest friend for 30 years. I drove to his house that night in the rain. Rang the bell. He opened the door, looked at me with tired, knowing eyes. Look, I figured you'd come. Richard, I need your vote. You know what Favor's doing is wrong. You know Gerald wouldn't have wanted this. He sighed deeply. I know, son. But she's Gerald's daughter. I can't betray his blood. You're not betraying him. Gerald put that contingency clause in his will for exactly this reason. Richard stared at me for a long moment. Rain poured behind me. Finally he nodded. All right, Luke. I'll vote with you. But you better be ready. Favour won't go down easy. The board vote was set for 1 week. But Favour had one last card to play. 2 nights before the vote, I stayed late at Claire's office, preparing our presentation. When I got to my car in the parking garage around 11 p.m., there was an envelope on the windshield. Inside, photos. Me and a woman I didn't recognize. Intimate angles. A hotel room. Fake, obviously fabricated. But convincing enough to fool anyone who wanted to believe it. A note in Favor's handwriting: drop the lawsuit and the board vote, or these go public. Your choice. My hands trembled. I called Claire immediately. She came down to the garage, examined the photos under the fluorescent lights. This is extortion. We can use it against her in court. Or it destroys me first. Favor's already ahead of this narrative. She'll say I was the one having the affair, that I'm projecting my own guilt. The media will eat it up. Claire's face hardened. Then we move faster. We go to the board tomorrow morning. We show them everything: Nathan's emails, the merger terms that screw them over, Gerald's will. We don't give her time to spin this story. I barely slept that night. Every sound made me jump. Every car passing outside felt like a threat. I kept thinking about Favour, the woman I married, the woman who used to laugh at my terrible jokes, who cried in my arms when her mother died. How had she become this person? Or had she always been this person, and I'd been too blind to see it? The boardroom was packed at 9 a.m. sharp. Favour sat at the head of the table, Nathan beside her. She looked confident. Almost smug. She wore Gerald's favorite color, navy blue. A calculated choice. Claire stood, professional and commanding. Gentlemen, we're here to invoke the contingency clause in Gerald Hartman's will. We have evidence that Favour Hartman is unfit to lead this company. She displayed the emails on the projector. Nathan and Favor's correspondence. The affair laid bare. The merger terms that gave Crosstech majority control and left the board members with diminished power and reduced shares. Richard spoke quietly. Favour, is this true? Favour's mask slipped for just a second. Then she recovered. This is a witch hunt. Luke is a bitter ex-husband trying to steal what's rightfully mine. Claire cut her off. Gerald Hartman knew his daughter wasn't ready for this responsibility. That's why he built in protections. That's why he chose Luke as trustee. Nathan stood abruptly. This is slander. We'll sue every single one of you. Martin stood too, his voice steady. Sue all you want. The facts are clear. You've been manipulating Favour to hand over this company. Gerald would be ashamed of what you've done to his daughter. Favour's eyes welled up. For just a second I saw the woman I married. Vulnerable. Lost. Hurt. But she recovered fast, wiping her eyes. I built this company with my father. I deserve to lead it. Richard spoke quietly with the weight of 30 years of friendship behind his words. No, Favour. You inherited it. Luke earned his place here. Your father knew that. That's why he chose him. The vote was called. 4-3. In my favor. Favour's face went white. Nathan slammed his fist on the mahogany table and stormed out, his footsteps echoing. Claire looked at me with a slight smile. Luke, you're now acting CEO of Hartman Industries. I should have felt victorious. But all I felt was hollow. Empty. Favour stood slowly. Her voice was barely a whisper. This isn't over, Luke. You took everything from me. Favour filed for divorce. It was finalized 3 months later. She got a settlement, enough to disappear. I heard she moved to Atlanta. Whether she's still with Nathan, I don't know. I don't care anymore. The company stabilized. We canceled the merger. Rebuilt trust with our clients. I promoted Martin to COO. Richard stayed on as advisor. Slowly, Hartman Industries became ours again. But I'd be lying if I said I was okay. Some nights, I still see Favour's face in that lobby. Cold. Detached. A stranger wearing my wife's face. I learned something through all of this. Betrayal doesn't always look like an enemy. Sometimes it looks like the person you trusted most. Sometimes it wears a wedding ring and sleeps beside you for 14 years. Gerald knew. That's why he protected the company. That's why he chose me. 6 months later, I got a letter. Nathan Cross was under investigation for fraud at multiple companies. Favour's name came up. She'd unknowingly helped him. She thought she was in love. She was just being used. I didn't press charges. I let it go. Because holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Last week I got an email. No name. Subject line, you were right about Nathan. I'm sorry. I haven't opened it yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. But that's a story for another time. If this shocked you, subscribe, like, comment, and share, because the next story is worse.